Let me, by the time my slide, can we bring the first set of slides? By the time the slide comes on board, let me give you a bit of a context as to how I got interested in innovation. It's really my inspiration for doing innovation comes from my grandfather. And my grandfather is everything for me. In fact, if you take a look at the 3-box solution book that's out there, I have dedicated to my grandfather because without him, I won't be standing here. I don't know how many millions of hours he spent educating me. I learned so much from him, but one thing in particular is what gotten me on this journey on innovation. You see, when I was young, I always used to stand first in my class in school. That wasn't that difficult because there were only 10 kids in my class, and I knew who the other 9 were, so I could easily beat them. Then I came to the university, and the university had students from all over Tamil Nadu, and there were about 5,000 students, and I didn't know most of them. And I stood first in my university, and I was with such tremendous excitement. I took the gold medal and my transcript to my grandfather to show him. And he looked at the transcripts and said, "Vijay, I think you only got 95 out of 100 in history. You lost 5 marks. There is a gap we got to close. You only got 90 out of 100 in English. There is another 10-mark gap we got to close." He wasn't trying to intimidate me. He wasn't trying to humiliate me. He wasn't trying to embarrass me. He was saying, "Vijay, don't be satisfied by having won a gold medal across 5,000 students. That should not be your bar. Your bar should be to realize your full potential. And your full potential is 100 out of 100. Then I went on to my chartered accountancy exam, which is thousands of students take that exam, and I won the gold medal and stood first all India. In fact, there are 7 gold medals for CA, and I got 6 of them. And the only gold medal I didn't get was for the best female student of the year. And I don't know whether I would have pushed myself to reach that level if I was satisfied with winning gold medal across 5,000 students in the university. That's what he was trying to tell me. Make competition irrelevant. That was his main message. Do not focus on competition. If you're Infosys, don't focus on Wipro. That leads you into mediocre thinking. If you're Colgate-Palmolive, don't focus on P&G. That leads to incremental thinking. The only focus has to be self-competition. And self-competition lifts you to very high levels. Of course, if you score 100 out of 100 in everything, you are going to win gold medal. Winning gold medal shouldn't be your bar. Your bar should be your absolute true potential. And I've really taken that to heart. That's really what innovation is all about. Innovation happens only if you strive for your true potential. Let me set the context, maybe take about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll take a break, and then give you a framework set of ideas to think through innovation. You see, if I were to think about India's economic history, which is very short, India's got very long history if you think about Indian civilization, but the economic history, we are talking about 75 years at best. And you can take the India's economic history and put them in 3 phases. Phase 1, which is, say, from 1947 to early or mid-1990s, the license Raj, where companies didn't even have to be efficient to be successful. Because people are waiting in line to buy. We only made 2 automobiles. And people are waiting in line to buy those automobiles. You can be as inefficient as you want to be, because there is plenty of customers to pick up your automobile. So the first phase, Indian economy really was nothing but highly inefficient. We didn't even know how to spell the word competition. or we didn't know how to spell the word efficiency. Phase 2 is the last 20 years, the liberalization. I think in the liberalization phase, Indian economy has grown primarily by becoming more efficient. Because once the economy liberalizes and you invite global players into India, you cannot be inefficient. For instance, Tata Steel in the early 90s had 90,000 employees. Today, they have 10,000 employees. But their capacity has grown about 10 times because they were so inefficient in the early 90s. But automation, all kinds of modern technologies have come in, so they become more efficient. With a few exceptions here and there, by and large, the Indian economy has grown primarily through efficiency. I think the phase 3, which is going to be the next 25 years, has to be, we got to innovate to grow. And I want to give you a framework of how do we think about closing this innovation gap, not just only the efficiency gap. And one way I can think about this is, I think of India as not one India, but 3 Indias. There is India number 1. And India number 1 really primarily resides in the 4 big metros, Madras, Calcutta, Bombay, Delhi, and perhaps in other big tier 1 cities like Bangalore, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad. Any city more than 4 million population is tier 1, considered tier 1. That's the tier 1 is what corporations know well about. The customers in tier 1 probably have GDP per capita at least 5 to 10 times more than the average GDP per capita in India. So our GDP per capita in India is $2,000. We are talking about $10,000 to $20,000 per capita in India, number 1. People are familiar with that, and corporations make goods and services for India, number 1. Then that's the top of the economic pyramid. That's the developed India, India number 1. India number 2 is the developing India. This is the middle of the economic pyramid. And that's about 300 million, I would say tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities and small towns primarily reside in India number 2. And India number 2 has average GDP per capita. Then there is India number 3. And can we get this previous slide back? I lost it. India number 3, and India number 3 is the bottom of the economic pyramid. This is the underdeveloped India, undeveloped India, and primarily they reside in the 600,000 villages. And my guess would be India number 2 has probably 5 times more GDP per capita as compared to India number 3. And I say the innovation gap really exists in the middle of the economic pyramid. And there is another innovation gap that exists in the bottom of the economic pyramid. So India number 2 and India number 3 requires breakthrough innovation. That's the only way we can capture the market space in India number 2 and India number 3. And I'm saying, forget about India number 3. That's hard. In fact, if you can't crack open India number 2, you can't crack open India